How about now? Can you guys on YouTube hear me? YouTube should be working. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It keeps assuming my mic is off or something. It keeps switching the sources or whatever. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, let me know if you can hear. I think you should be able to hear. Okay. How strange. I guess it looks completely random. I don't know why it just switches sources here and there. Yeah, whatever. But at least I know what causes the problem. All right. Problem solved. People on YouTube didn't miss much. Just read the tape real quick. And we talked about Bill Murray for 5 seconds. So what happened this week? Inflation came in hotter than expected. Tariffs, no tariffs. What do you say, April 1st? Is that when they said they're going to start tariffs? All right. Let's see. Yeah, amazing insights, I know. All right. Sorry, I'm distracted right now. Okay. Let's look at the news. Because why not? GameStop. GameStop is trading at which is $28.40. Even after a massive rally, it's still below 30. Wouldn't you know, GameStop is considering investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. This sent the shares up. Yesterday, they were up about 20%. They've moderated since. Yeah, they got $4.6 billion in cash. They've just been sitting on, haven't been doing a damn thing with that cash. They have no idea what to do with their business, and now they're quite late in making this decision, frankly, but they're considering buying Bitcoin, a la Michael Saylor's, big old Ponzi scheme. So that would be terrific if GameStop did that and then Bitcoin crashed. And it is only now that GameStop just dies. But, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it works. It's been working for Saylor. TikTok has returned to app stores. They're back on Apple and Google app stores in the U.S. after Trump delayed enforcement of a ban, extending the deadline for ByteDance to sell its U.S. assets. There's zero surprise there. Nobody should be surprised at all about that. But, TikTok still isn't publicly traded. So, it's not like it makes a big difference. I don't think people say, I'm only going to use TikTok and not Instagram or not any other app. I feel like people just have multiple devices using different social media apps at the same damn time. It's insane. Apple announced a partnership with Baidu, or that it's looking at its options with Baidu. We're working with Alibaba as well. And suddenly, Chinese AI is in vogue. So establishing partnerships with Chinese AI companies is bullish for U.S. stocks. That's amazing. I didn't think I was going to hear that I was going to see that sentiment I don't know, for a long time. But that's interesting. Chinese stocks are, I mean, they've been trading at steep values for a long time. And all it's going to take is for, well, one, you have big corporations establishing partnerships with them. There might be trade wars between governments, but what is big tech? What do the mega caps care, right? If they can still establish partnerships. And I think it puts the government in a tricky spot because now you have the Trump administration saying we're going to crack down on China and Chinese tech, but then you have the mega caps saying, no, we want their business. Yet our government is supposed to be more favorable towards corporations and less strict regulation. So I don't know how. I think corporations are going to get their way. I mean, as they tend to, or at least in the U.S., So I think it'll be interesting to see how many more companies step in to try to establish partnerships with Chinese companies. It makes sense. I mean, how many times have you looked at a good or service that the U.S. is trying to produce, trying to cut costs, and then China steps in and says, we'll do it for a lot cheaper. So, I mean, literally, we're talking about this some months ago last year about BYD and about electric vehicles. Who knew that China was going to beat the U.S. at manufacturing costs for electric vehicles and solar panels when you have a tremendous amount of examples of China doing that before? So go figure that they're going to undercut U.S. companies when it comes to AI too. China's not stuck in the Stone Ages. They have good technology. So, that should start a new bit of a wave for investment in China. So I don't think this administration is going to be as tough on China as they say. Or they could have tariffs on like materials, but I think they're going to be very picky. And well, I don't want to say hypocrites, but yeah, I think they'll allow AI investment. So a lot of money there. So Baidu is going to make its AI chatbot Ernie free starting on April 1st. And OpenAI announced that its forthcoming GPT-5 will be completely free as well. So that's an interesting move on OpenAI's part. Apple is supposedly teasing a new device. Well, I guess I shouldn't say supposedly. I guess it's confirmed. They are supposed to be launching a new product on February 19th. Apple shares rose about 2% on that announcement. I don't know. Knowing Apple, it's not even going to be that big of a deal. Or knowing modern day Apple, the past 10-year-old Apple. Because everything's always the best thing ever, even if it's just a slight update. So I don't know. This will be interesting. No idea what product they're going to reveal. It'll be interesting if it's actually innovative, because Apple hasn't done that for a long time. YouTube TV may lose Paramount. Paramount Global channels, including CBS and Comedy Central, may go dark on YouTube TV as contract negotiations stall. YouTube TV is offering an $8 credit to affected users. Yeah, all right. I'll take that. I'm subscribed to... Wait, no, not YouTube TV. I'm not subscribed to that. That's expensive. I have YouTube Premium, which is less expensive. Interesting. Boeing plans to boost 737 production by shutting down shadow factories used for rework, freeing skilled workers for new aircraft. Boeing aims to ramp up max output to 38 jets per month and clear the backlog by mid-year. What about the billions in stock-based comp? Man, how much money they could just free up right there. That's got to be the biggest problem with Boeing right now. Even if there wasn't, neglect or whatever, just piss poor management, stock-based comp would still be the biggest issue for them. Yeah, well, so hard to be bullish on that stock. They got over $2 billion in stock-based comp. It's crazy. Denny's, which I forget is publicly traded, DENN, is closing up to 90 more locations in 2025, bringing total closures to nearly 180 stores amid rising costs and declining sales. Shares plunged nearly 25% in the news and are now down 50% year over year. Oh, man. Is this a cigar butt? Denny's. When's the last time you guys went to Denny's? I don't remember. I think I was in, maybe I was in college. I can't remember. Years ago. Missouri has sued Starbucks, alleging its DEI initiatives violate anti-discrimination laws and lead to slower service and higher costs. Look at that. They're saying minorities are slow. The lawsuit challenges diversity hiring goals and mentorship programs. I guess if you can get away with the lawsuit, why not? You just sue every company for DEI initiatives. I feel like all of us could sue any company. Because it's trending. BYD nabs Brazilian mining rights. They've acquired mineral rights in a lithium-rich region of Brazil, market its entry into mining in its largest market outside China. Its sites sit near Atlas Lithium, the ticker's ATLX, near their plots and BYD's new electric vehicle plant. Man, BYD is killing it. BYD did not care that the markets didn't like Chinese stocks. What a great company. All right, let's have a look at the markets. They are now open, and then we'll look at earnings a bit. Indices are basically unchanged from earlier. Still flat. Dow's down 0.15%. Russell's up 0.44%. Nothing to see here. Okay. What if GameStop didn't just invest in crypto but took it a step further and set up a whole NFT store? Good one, Ben. Desmond, am I still bullish on China? Oh, I'm not sure if you asked it before I mentioned what I said earlier. I am inclined to be bullish China because I doubt our administration is going to be anti AI investment with China. And I think that's what the mega caps are very hungry for, because there's a lot of money that they can make from that. Just sales in China. So I doubt this. I think that the trade wars are going to be mostly on materials and labor, but on services and technology, I don't think they're going to be nearly as strict because money. So I am inclined to be bullish Chinese stocks because of political greed, basically. So honestly, I don't even feel like being bullish Chinese stocks right now. but I'm just kind of reading the print, I suppose. King D, you still have JP Morgan open? Or did you buy some of those other calls? Oh, look at that. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I'm up. Oh, spreads are wide. Okay. Let's give it a minute. Let me take a look at some of my trades here. Nat gas is still ticking on up. Another freeze. I don't know about you guys, but Pittsburgh, we're getting another freeze next week. Or I guess it kind of already started today, but I think yesterday it was in the morning. The temperature shot up overnight. It's about 46 degrees when I woke up, which is the warmest it's been in, I don't know, in a while. 46 degrees. That didn't feel bad, but there was a wind chill of like 15. It's like the worst combination ever. But yeah. So we're still getting more freezes, and it keeps sending that gas right back up. It's about to hit 20 again. UNG, that is. Futures are sitting at about 373. So UNG is, I guess, over the past few months, it's actually outperforming the futures. So something to keep an eye on. But then again, it was underperforming futures forever, and that's because natural decay. So I suppose this makes sense. Yeah, Desmond, I don't even know, like, I remember what it was like being bullish Chinese stocks when everybody just hated them. I kind of ignore, I guess you could say, like, public sentiment, you know? If our government is very anti-China investment, you know, trade wars across the board, then it's really tough to be an investor in Chinese stocks. BYD was, for the past, I don't know, how long has it been? Lads, what's it been? Like at least a year and a half? Maybe 2 years? I can't remember. Maybe it was about 2 years ago. So it was when BYD went below 50. Dipped below 50, it was at like 45. I remember. I think I added at like 40. I got in like 50, 45, 40, something like that. Yeah, I'll say it was around 45 because I remember hitting that level. But there were several stocks that were like value plays. They all hit like 40 to 50, like BMY. So I might be getting my wires crossed. But I know BYD hit 45. And I think I mentioned on here, like, this is a great price. And they did really well. And for a long time, even, I mean, while other Chinese stocks were sucking it up, BYD was fine. And then they had that sharp rally. It trimmed, got rid of the other Chinese stocks. That rally was not going to last. That was back in, September, August? Or, I'm sorry, September, October. It didn't last. BYD settled up nicely. And then it just, and then it started rallying hard again. That's just a good business. So BYD is it didn't need the U.S. I don't know if you guys remember me saying that, but there was all this, you know, I think the bearish sentiment was because U.S. wasn't going to allow them to sell their electric vehicles here, but they just didn't need it. It wasn't part of their estimates. It wasn't part of their business. It would be a massive cherry on top if they were allowed to sell cars, but I don't see that coming for a while. I mean, unless China just tells Trump, hey, we're going to give you, you know, millions of dollars to let us sell cars there, and you say, okay, I can see that happening. But I don't think China will do that. It'd be hilarious if China just starts schmoozing the hell out of Trump just to get their way. And you know that would work. But yeah, that's not even part of the thesis that BYD would be allowed to sell cars in the U.S. So on its own, it was just doing great. And it was spanking Tesla. He's just stomping Tesla in global sales. It's not even close at this point. So, in terms of growth. So, yeah, BYD was the one company that I thought it doesn't matter if Chinese stocks are hated. This business is just too damn strong. I can't say that for too many other Chinese stocks. I think we'll get a lot of rallies here and there as more and more investors, fund managers say, okay, we're dipping our toes into Chinese stocks or whatever, and they're going to want liquidity, right? So, and fund managers, they talk to each other, the big ones. So they're going to say, hey, we're thinking about loading up a Chinese stocks, or we're thinking about starting. What do you guys think? Can we start buying? And then it gets on CNBC, and then suddenly everybody turns bullish on Chinese stocks and forgets the whole past 5 years. So sometimes it's all it takes, but I would be more bullish about the idea of corporate U.S. corporate investment, the mega caps. And once, that's already starting, I guess. But let's see if other mega caps follow along. And once you start seeing CNBC talking about it, or big hedge fund managers saying we're going big in Chinese stocks, and I don't mean Burry. Burry's not he's successful, but he doesn't carry the same weight. You might see rallies based on what Burry buys, but a lot of times they're like smaller stocks, getting squeezed, whatever. So I'm not talking about Burry. I'm talking about the big guys. Buffett won't buy Chinese stocks, guaranteed. I don't see Seth Klarman buying. Tepper bought, right? Bill Hackman, yeah, I could see him doing something to pump his stocks. I still don't see Druckenmiller because he was very specific about not buying stocks while G's still in charge. So, yeah, and there are others, but I think what's the big fund managers, you start seeing them saying, yeah, we're starting to buy Chinese stocks. We think it's a good time. Then I could see sentiment changing. But it will require lax regulation. But I do have, I guess before, when did I buy K-Web calls? Let me see. I bought those not even a month ago. Yeah, maybe it's like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I got out kind of early. I got out, I think, on the end of January in that rally. I thought it was done. But yeah, it's still going up. I did hold on to Baidu calls and Tal Education, the little-known Chinese AI stock, or the kind of more education. Now that supposedly they're using AI tech. I'm going to be honest, I don't even know if it's real, but it was in a, I think it was a 60-minute documentary. And I like to think 60 Minutes is pretty, it's fairly credible. So, yeah, that company's, they're like, they can read little Chinese kids' minds or whatever. So, I don't think a lot of people know about that stock. It has been rallying hard, though. But it is pretty small. Let me see. 9 billion market cap. And I think the financials are pretty good. I think they were doing some shady shit back in the day that caused the stock price to crater. Let me see. Yeah, look at that. Went from 91 to to below $4 a share. Well, I guess that was kind of when the Chinese stock bubble was bursting. But yeah, so I honestly have no clue how legitimate this company is, but if they are real, then I think there's massive upside. So I guess I'll take that. Just minimal exposure. I'll take some leverage. I already have some, and I'm just holding these calls. They expired June, strike 15, but we'll see. It's not like a high conviction play, but I think it's interesting. But I kind of see it as binary. Like it's either gonna skyrocket or whoops, another Chinese scam. So, yeah. Investor beware. Let's see. Oh, how's JPM looking now? Let me talk less so I can look at my trades. JPM up 284% in those calls. It's still going. I'm getting oversold metrics, so I am going to cash out. I guess I could have kept some, but whatever. That's fine. That's a good gain. I sold half yesterday. I actually forgot to mention that. I think I was already up. I can't remember. I think it was 90%. Yeah. I just didn't want to gamble too much. It was already a gamble, so. Was it May, July last year, King D? They've been on my radar for a long time. I don't remember the first time I talked about them. But anyway, I know it's been a while. How about Intel? How about you guys that missed the exit on Intel? Because I think I got out and it was like a 50% loss. I mean, those calls were dead in the water, and then Vancy Poo just said something about Intel or U.S. semi-production. I don't know. And then Intel just started rallying hard. So usually when I see stuff like that, and it's not really backed up by anything real. If there's a strong rally, I'm taking it, even if it's a loss. If time is limited, right? Like those Intel calls, like I'm taking that because Intel had rallied. I don't know, like over $2. I think it was a big move for Intel. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I think if it's about increasing like incentives for Intel or investment in Intel, deal making, whatever, I was expecting it to happen sooner. Hence that March play. I felt like it needed to happen sooner. It was such a big deal, Like U.S. semiconductors, I thought that would be, priority, like top of the list, right? But it didn't seem like it. So, yeah, I think here we are, almost a month out. And I haven't seen anything real. At first, it was like they were going to cut back, right? From what the Biden administration had signed. So, yeah, I needed to see something legitimate. And plus, it's the vice president. Like, that doesn't really count for much. Hello, Andy.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah, CRISPR. What about CRISPR? Let's see. What are they doing these days? Oh, a little rally here. Okay. Yeah, CRISPR's I'm just going to hold them until they either skyrocket or get acquired. So that's probably like my longest term holding. Like, I don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah. Gene therapy, genetic editing. All our companies as far along as CRISPR is. What about Vertex? They got a partnership with CRISPR. Vertex Pharmaceuticals, that's a great company right there. I didn't buy in this past dip. Went below 380, but yeah, that was not just in hindsight, but I've watched this company for a long time, and every time it has a nice big dip, I mean, it was at 520 back in November, and then it hit 378 in a month later. Yeah, that's it's almost always going to be a good buy. Big dip like that, yeah. Pretty sure last time it dipped like that, it took it a year, over like a year and a half to make that size of a correction. It's insane. But yeah, it's already retraced more than half of that drop. Yeah, that would have been a good time to go long, even like long-term calls. Oh well, they were oversold too. Okay, what else we got? Oh, how's Hood? Man, what a year for Hood. Who still had shares or calls?
I still have shares of Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
left
selling
them open.
calls against it.
Yeah, I left them open on the on my long portfolio that I post. Yeah, that's just the company until something material in the business changes. Yeah, you just kind of hold. You take gains, of course, but don't let it balloon to a massive size in your portfolio. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected these gains. This is insane. I wouldn't have expected half of these gains. If I got like 30% on Hood in a year, that would have been good. But holy hell. What is this, like 250% increase? Something like that from, I think got in at like around 16.
Oh, actually, Hood is a pretty big part of my portfolio. That should probably trim just a little bit, huh?
And what's big? Like what percent?
In this account, it's like 30%.
Yeah, I would just
Total,
take
it's like
gains. I
10%.
wouldn't even worry about covered calls. I would just, yeah.
Yeah, like total of what I have in the markets is like 5-10%, depending on there's like 10% in cash, or sorry, 50% in cash, and
Yeah.
yeah.
King D, do you still have shares or calls, call spreads? Ben, you have shares? King D trend at 66. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. I mean, I already know, but that's the best performing stock from that long portfolio. Okay, I got an 18, or averaged in. Average price for me was 18. I think I had two big buys. It's $16.70 and then 21. Yeah, 250%. That was a good guess. Has beaten the SPY by 235% since May. Let's see. What happens if I delete that? Versus SPY, my long portfolio is 26.9% alpha. So if I take away Hood, no, it's still 21.8. Okay. So that's not as crazy as I thought. So, but yeah, it's definitely pulling some serious weight. Very nice. Nintendo, since adding that, it's now beating the SPY by 13.5%. It took a while, but yeah, Nintendo's just, man, it just started rallying hard. Yeah, I covered calls on a great stock like using covered calls to trim, if that's going to give you FOMO, yeah, then just hold. I don't mind, like, if a position balloons, like Stellantis was one that I was selling covered calls, Meta, and they just started rallying hard. Because when it gets to that size, I'm like, yeah, I have to trim. So it's systematic. It doesn't matter if I miss out on so many games. Like, no, that's how it goes. So if you're getting FOMO, you gotta check to make sure you actually have some sort of a system. Mike Concho, you convinced your dad to buy in Hood at IPO. It obviously took a total shit, so he sold before the rally, trying to preserve some of that capital. Sold before which rally? This like year-long rally on Hood? What was the IPO price? Oh wow, it still hasn't passed IPO price. Yeah, it was insanely overvalued then. That was definitely bubble territory. That was the IPO bubble. Coinbase, they were, yeah, same thing for Coinbase. They still haven't passed the IPO price. Man, I know Palantir's passed. Palantir was like a rare exception. It wasn't even priced that crazily, but I think Palantir was a SPAC, right? They merged with a SPAC.
Yeah, I was one of the Bill Spackman things.
Yeah, it was just insane. Most of those were scams, but yeah, how odd. Nobody felt this way about Palantir in the beginning. There's a massive difference between Palantir and Hood and Coinbase, you know, like looking at the charts. Is Intel still not worth it for the long run? What's long run? Like, it's not just long run. It's like, okay, say Intel, what if it takes 10 years for Intel to double in stock price? Is that a good investment for you? It's opportunity cost. And frankly, Intel still has to prove itself. And I haven't seen one thing that's come out of Intel that has given any signs to investors saying this time it's different or it's time for a turnaround. Nothing has changed for this company. So you need catalysts. It can't just be the price looks low, I'm going to hold it forever. Like that's kind of that's what the SPY is for. Look at it dump. There's NVIDIA. What else reported? Oh, Palo Alto. I picked up a few shares of Palo Alto. Yeah, I think they confirmed guidance, I believe. So, a reasonable price. I wouldn't call it a good price, but Palo Alto's solid. Did cash out those calls yesterday. I left, I think, like one on the table just in case. But, yeah, now it's down 5.2%. So, that was a good call there. These calls made what, like 87%, something like that? Google can't catch a break? Dude, Google was on fire for a while. I think Microsoft is a stock that can't catch a break. Yeah. The other Mag 7, they're all doing fine. Unless by catch a break, you mean it just can't go straight up? is that what you mean? Yeah, I'm looking at Microsoft. I don't know what's up with the markets and Microsoft.
And the June 300C on JPM I bought is already at 25%.
June?
From yesterday. Yeah, I bought June 300C.
300.
300 call.
Oh man, that would. Yeah, that's like, yeah. I don't- It's
For
the price
June?
of flying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking like it was at 174 a year ago.
Yeah, it's been flying.
Yeah, that's insane. Intel needs everything. Intel needs new leadership. They need a new. They need to fix the business. They need to cut costs. They need. They need good regulation. They need investments from the government. They need corporate investment, and then they need to speed up time. Yeah, Intel's just. They can just exist for a while. Um, I don't think there's any management in the world that can just suddenly turn around Intel. They're so behind. I don't know how. I don't. I don't know. They need some crazy magical innovation in order to catch up to Taiwan Semiconductor. Reclaim the market share. Mr. Jack, now that Nike no longer meets our view criteria, am I still planning on holding the December calls? Let's see. How are those doing? Wait, I thought those were those not closed? Let me check. Oh, I guess not. Those were bought January 16th. Okay. I guess I'm confusing them with another trade. I thought maybe I'd mentioned on one of the talks that I was closing them. I didn't mark them closed. Okay.
I remember there was like a December 90 call that was closed, but not.
Well, that's the only trade for Nike. I think that was it. Yeah, I don't see any other trades there. I thought I mentioned that on a talk, but I know, yeah, looking, I definitely didn't mark it closed. Let me see. It may have been that day when I said I couldn't. Let's see. Not sure. They're still marked as open. So, okay. But as it relates to the relative valuation strategy, I'll put it this way. Personally, I think Nike will do fine. I don't think this type of decline can continue. I mean, it's been like 4 years, basically, just this long-term downward trend. I don't see that continuing. Obviously, they have they have issues to address, competition, and I mean now maybe we have lower consumer spending and have issues with China manufacturing, all sorts of things. I would say the company, to make a trade, that's fine, to make a bullish trade. So, but you would see it separately, right? So, in terms of the relative valuation strategy, that's meant to be just a systematic strategy. No opinion, like zero opinion. I just look at numbers and say, what did historically, these companies tend to come back at some point, right? once they hit the low end of the valuation range over 3 to 5 years, depending on how cyclical the business is. 3 years for cyclicality. But that's it. My opinion is it is Nike, so I think they'll do fine. I think this year will be better than the past several years because it's about time. Like, it's got to happen at some point. Maybe you could have made that call, or maybe you could have made the call that, okay, it's not going to happen this year. Maybe you could have made it last year, right? It did have some little rallies, some intermittent rallies here and there. Made some money in the short-term plays. But, yeah, and it just started going back down. The financials do not look good for it, like the estimates. I mean, the balance sheet, liquidity-wise, zero issues there. But if we look at estimates, they're still expecting, for this fiscal year ending May 31st, still expecting about a 10.5% decrease in revenue. So it's been a while since they've had a sizable decrease in revenue, or any decrease. And really, that was just during COVID. So this is a pretty big deal. And since they announced earnings, estimates, they keep being revised down. And now, let's just load for a second. If I go to quarterly and looking at forward estimates, for those on YouTube, you can see, look at every single quarter from May of last year through November of this year for estimates. It's just down. So it just doesn't look good. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't actually stage a turnaround at this point, but as estimates keep going lower and lower, I think it's like, okay, maybe the stock price is just flat. Maybe it goes up, but what it's going to require is an inflection point, and it's just, you still haven't seen that. Estimates just keep being revised downward. That 10.5%, that was not the case, last quarter, a year ago. That 10.5% decrease in revenue expected for this year, that is. So,
when you say estimates are being revised down, do you mean like as we go through the quarter, as time goes through the quarter, like analysts are revising their assumptions?
As we go through,
is that what you mean by?
No, like I don't look at it every single week. I just, for the most
Sure.
part, if there's a big event that occurs, big news event, or they release some PR and they say, management comes out and says we have to lower our guidance or whatever, then yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But if not, then it's going to be on a quarterly basis whenever they report earnings.
I see.
So yeah. So it's just, to me, it's for the relative valuation strategy, it's just disqualified, like, period. It doesn't mean that they can't now stage a turnaround, but the criteria is the way it is, and frankly, it's worked. And I haven't even fully tested it, but I know, like, actual back tests, but I know through COVID, through 2022, it worked very well. Actually, I'll count out COVID, because COVID is just, you just bought the low and then everything went back up, right? Almost everything. So just exclude COVID or the height of the pandemic. 2022 was a hallmark year for it because S&P was just down. It was just walking downstairs the whole year. And there were stocks that met the criteria that did really well. And I was still kind of forming the strategy, but at a very basic level, it's just big name company, doesn't have deteriorating financials, has made comebacks in the past, is the price low. And there were many stocks on that list. Meta, Google, Palo Alto, JPM, Apple was there, Microsoft, and they all saw strong performance relative to the S&P at a certain point. So, they had to drop first, right, in order to go down to the lower end of the valuation range. But yeah, So overall, it's like, well, yeah, it kind of sucks, but like, I mean, on an unrealized basis, the RV strategy is still 90% success rate over what, past year and a half. That's pretty damn good, man. And that's, let's see, 20 stocks. So only two, Nike and UPS, have been crossed out. Every other stock made it. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks that are unrealized. I think Devon's doing well. Dow's kind of sucking it up. Pepsi's sucking it up. And Merck is sucking it up. So Merck, Pepsi, and Dow just checked. Those are fine. What, Dexcom just reported, right? Let's check them. Oh, yeah. So they're up 5.5%. So yeah, I think just like opinion, if you're going to leave those calls open, frankly, there's plenty of time. So we can see, time is sort of working in our favor for now. But yeah, I would say it's not I wouldn't trust it as a relative valuation play anymore because it doesn't meet the criteria. So now it just has to be a good old-fashioned bullish play. You think Nike will do something, and hopefully the next few earnings quarters they're good, right? So yeah, but it's tough for them. The sales is still declining. They are cutting costs, so that's good. But Nike it was always a growth company. That's how it used to be priced. And I guess this is what happens when you no longer grow. Yeah, I remember Nike was like, oh man, that was the best retail stock. Like hands down. The times they have changed. Yeah, Merck still meets the criteria. Yeah, they're sucking it up, but man, look at that downward trend. Frankly, this is kind of what I was saying in December. I wouldn't take most of this stock price action seriously, to just put it very simply. Merck is, let's see, what's the dividend? Like close to 4% now? Oh, whoops, it's JPM. 3.87%. Merck is a good company. They lowered guidance, right? Let's see. Yeah, they're still expecting. I mean, growth is single digits. Revenue, top line growth is expected to be single digits. That's not really anything. Yeah, it's nothing surprising there. But profit margins are expected to expand considerably. Free cash flow. So they got a lot of money to make acquisitions. Yeah, they could just buy their growth, frankly. I don't know if I trust these estimates for free cash flow. Are only 5. Okay, there are 8 estimates for next year. Yeah, that's a massive increase in free cash flow. Yeah, it's looking like about a 10% free cash flow yield. That's crazy. That's how Bristol Myers was looking a year ago. So, yeah, Merck, give it time. I think it reminds me a lot of Bristol Myers. It like just kept selling off, even though it was clearly a value play. Marks just didn't care. And then, frankly, I don't really know. There wasn't any big change in the business, to be honest, for Bristol Myers. Like, look at this. They're still expecting a declining revenue over the next 2-3 years. So, frankly, given the price action, you would think that Bristol Myers is doing significantly better than Merck. But in terms of estimates, no, it's definitely the opposite. So I'm seeing a lot of stocks move, frankly, in my opinion, pretty irrationally. I don't see the reason for Merck to just continue to drop. So, I mean, if you have the firepower, I would say, yeah, go for it. If you're looking for a value play, long-term calls, whatever. Yeah, the business is fine. And then a lot of meme stocks, the way they're flying, or not even meme stocks, just a lot of stocks how they've been moving through earnings. Up 20% or something, down 20%, down 30%. Some of these companies, I saw Fastly, they were down a pretty big amount. Was it the Trade Desk? I think it was down 30%. The Trade Desk was so hot like half a year ago, and analysts were pounding the table. And it just never looked like a value play. And I remember looking at it back in August. There was August, pretty much every quarter that it just dropped to 80. Or those 2 quarters it dropped to 80. I would look at it, wonder if it's a buy, and I'm like, it's still too expensive. I don't know how they're going to continue to compete. And just started going back up, and this past earnings, they went right back down to 80. High of 141. So I don't know if that's warranted. I know it was overvalued, but a 30% drop, and there are plenty of companies that have massive moves up or down. I kind of don't believe the stock price movement. If you can trade it, it gives you opportunities to trade, sure. But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't look at a company, a stock price down like 20, 30% and say, it's at it for this company. I wouldn't necessarily just rush to buy, right? Like, I'm not interested in just buying the Trade Desk right now. But I would take it with a massive grain of salt, lump of salt. Maybe there's a buying opportunity, but don't think like, okay, this stock dropped 30%. It deserved to drop 30%, or the stock is up 20%. Even if, it's a play that you're bullish on. If stocks are moving that much or prices moving that much for your plays, maybe consider trimming. I don't think this market is a healthy market. And I think these moves are way too large. I think Tasty Trade is probably saying the same exact thing. Merck, I mean, for shares, you're getting a 3.9% dividend yield. That's not bad. That's a value play. That's a good old-fashioned value play. Nothing crazy. They're not going to suddenly say we were expecting revenue growth of 2%. Now it's going to be 15%. Like, you're not going to see that happen unless they make a big acquisition. Probably not. They could, though. They have the cash. But, yeah, I would see it as good old-fashioned value play, not necessarily any catalyst on the horizon. So it still meets the criteria for relative valuation, but relative valuation is about predicting catalysts. It's about finding companies that are set up for future price movement, right? Just based on historical data. So pharmaceuticals, a lot of them tend to do this. I think I mentioned this before, but it's cyclical within the industry. One pharmaceutical company starts sucking it up because of competition. The price drops for a couple years, and sooner or later they get it together, and then it comes back up. Bristol Myers, a good example. Vertex was an example a few years ago. Missed opportunity for me. They were on my watch list, and I just didn't pull the trigger. Vertex. Let's see, what was this? 2020, high of about just over 300. Year later, they were trading at 176. In 2021, that was a bull market. And then they just went on a tear. So this happens with so many pharmaceutical companies. And it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, have they fallen enough? I think a lot of times they tend to drop for a solid year. Pfizer kind of can't get it together, though. It's been a couple years. So, yeah, they all kind of do the same thing. And at some point, they get it together. It's a cyclical market. And the stock prices, they're almost predictable. But sometimes, you could wait. A stock could drop for a year. It's a great value play, 10% free cash flow yield, 4% dividend, whatever, or 5 or 6. You decide, okay, this is a great time to get in. It's been a year. And then it just keeps dropping for another year. Or it's flat. So, yeah, you still have to be cautious about that. And that's how it goes when there's no meaningful catalyst on the horizon. You're just kind of waiting for the company to turn around. So, relative valuation, that's the whole point. You just wait. You just sit and wait and use leverage. And, you give it time. But I would say there's a difference between that and traditional value investing. Traditional value investing is okay, what's the yield that I'm getting? What are the catalysts coming up that are going to convince the markets that this is a stock they should be invested in? Because if there are no catalysts, the stock price probably isn't moving. Is there secular trend involved? That's something that typically traditional value investors aren't so much looking for. It's just the stock is trading at a damn good price. It doesn't need to be trending. But these days I think it's very important because they could just continue to trend down if they're not in a strong secular trend, growth trend, right, or even cyclical trend. So yeah, that's what I mean by good old fashioned value play. Nothing crazy, nothing shiny here. I don't see any big catalysts on the horizon. They're just a good company. And for that reason and other metrics, they still meet the criteria for a relative valuation strategy. Same thing happened with Bristol Myers, like I mentioned. So we'll see. I trust that strategy. Well, it's my strategy. I say that like I got it from somewhere else. But, I trust it. And hey, if it misses, whatever. It's still a 85% success rate on an unrealized basis. I was at a bear case. I was thinking it was going to be a 40% success rate over the long term, and I thought 60% is fantastic. So, yeah, anything above 60% for that strategy, you're beating the markets. Or 60% was enough. All right, what else we got trade-wise? How's the SPY doing? Nothing crazy. Microsoft's down 1%. Don't know why. Yeah, I'm really surprised. Analysts, markets aren't talking about Microsoft left and right. JPM. Oh, those 280s are cheap. Okay. I'll take a few. All right. Let's buy some 280s. 10, 11 cents. And I might average in. I really didn't buy that many. I think if it drops to 277, then I'll double up. Yeah. Or I'll go for the 277.5. So those will probably be, if it drops another 64 cents, the 277.5 contracts are probably trading at like 60 cents. 65 cents. So all right. I've been neglecting YouTube, I think. Okay. Just a couple of yeses from earlier. Let's see. What earnings? I'll talk about earnings real quick, and then I'll probably call it a day. Yes, that's right. I am late for something. Okay. Yeah, so let's look at earnings real quick. Airbnb, how did they do? Whoa, up 14%. Holy hell. 160. Yeah, it was here a year ago. Beat estimates. The bookings rose 12% year over year, but the company issued soft first quarter guidance. Okay, but they're up 14%. Very interesting. How's Moderna? No, basically flat. They beat estimates, but posted a larger than expected net loss of $1.12 billion as COVID vaccines sales fell 66%. There's JPM again. The company reaffirmed its 2025 sales guidance and aims to cut $1 billion in cost by year end. So they were down more than 4% pre-market, but yeah, now they're up 2%. Coinbase, they're down 6.6%. I think they were flat at the open. Let's see. This is another quarter where they open after earnings, they open flat. And it's only until later in the day when there's a move. So it's insane. How many quarters is this? Like 6 quarters in a row. Coinbase does not move from close to open through earnings. That's just insane. We're in the matrix. All right. So there's a lot that happened this week. There's a lot, but it doesn't seem like it. Looking at the markets, but we had a CPI. Inflation is persistent. If it stays like this, there aren't going to be rate cuts. I don't think there will be rate increases this year, but it may. I think it's going to take a while before we get another rate cut, frankly. So, yeah, JPM is calling. Let's see. I want to see that 277. It's basically, yeah, it's at the same price it was earlier. So, it was stuck at 277.50 maybe, or I don't know. If it dips back below 277.50 maybe. Those calls are cheap. It is oversold, but I've seen it be oversold like this before. I think it was just it was Monday. Yeah, Monday. I was going heavy in JPM. And then Tuesday really worked out. That was a nice win, but at the close Monday I was hurting. Not hurting, but I was like, "Oh, I'm not used to losing money on JPM." My ego was hurting. All right. I got to go. I got to roll. So that's all I got for today. King D, are we doing Halo Co-op tonight? Are you neglecting your lover? Most likely. I've gotten most likelies before. I've gotten yeses before, which ended up being no's. So most likely does not inspire confidence. No, sir. All right. Yeah, 4-5. Thanks for posting the earnings. Okay, you're gonna prove it to me. All right then. Okay, well, that's it for me for today. Let's see how JPM does, but yeah, probably no big trades today, unless there's something interesting to close out that's made good money. So yeah. Until Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone. Oh, real quick, book club. I guess it's about that time. We got to vote a new book. So, yeah, I guess we are exactly mid-month, right? Yeah, I'll start posting in book club channel in the Super Books. See what book you guys want to read next. But yeah, I'll post there. And if you want to join book club, feel free. Just tag me or at book club, whatever, in the Super Books channel. And be a nerd with us. Okay. Until Monday, have a good weekend, everyone. It's been real. I'll see you next time.